Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. I'm very glad that you decided to join our second workshop of this year. If you don't, this will probably be your first workshop. That you don't have to worry about it because I will provide every little detail of the jazzy notes in the description below, so you can catch up with what we have been discussing about jazz in the previous workshop. So. The intro of this workshop I did is actually a little recording session I have with some very awesome jazz artists in Guangzhou, local jazz artists. And we've played a tune actually in jazz language called "On Green Dolphin Street," which we have slightly covered in our first workshop. So we're gonna continue of what we have been doing since last week and keep working on Green Dolphin Street, as well as our very important subject, Major and Major 251. So let's get straight into the juicy stuff. Okay, so in the last workshop, we introduced a little bit about major modes, the seventh mode in major scale, which is Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. That's a lot of modes. If you're new to this, don't worry, we won't be using all of them at the moment. Today, we're going to focusing on Ionian, Dorian, and probably a little Mixolydian. So, let's get straight into it. So, the tune on Green Dolphin Street actually has a lot of major seventh chord, or a lot of major language in its melody, in its chord progression. You can see on the right, I have a harmonic progression of On Green Dolphin Street. So this is an app called iReal Pro. It's a very awesome app. You can find it on iOS, Android, PC, Mac, like a lot of platforms. So if you don't have this app, that's totally okay. So if you see in our Jazz Society email, you can find that we have a real book link in it. So you can have access to all of the real books, all of the jazz standards, mostly in the link. Okay, so don't worry about that. Today we're just gonna focusing more on analyzing the structure and possible major phrasing line on Green Dolphin Street. Okay, so before we actually jump straight into how to come up a very awesome major line, I'm going to introduce a very interesting and a very short scale, which is C major, major hexatonic scale, not necessarily C. So, a hexatonic scale is actually made up of 6 notes. There can be a major hexatonic, there can be a melodic minor hexatonic, there can be tons of hexatonic scale, as long as there's 6 notes in it. Like that's how I would personally remember them. One famous hexatonic scale, I would say, is the whole tone scale. If you don't know about whole tone, but I'm sure you're definitely familiar with this sound. Yeah, very dreamy, mysterious sound, used in a lot of TV shows, cartoons, Disney thing. So that is an example of a hexatonic scale because it has 6 notes. Yeah. So for a major hexatonic, we're going to use 6 notes in a major scale. For example, C major hexatonic, we have. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So we're skipping the 7th note, which is the major 7. Sorry. Okay. So as we're skipping the major 7, that actually makes our scale 6 note. So it's a C major hexatonic. That's one option you can play in the major chord, especially on a C major 7th chord. but that's not the only major hexatonic you can play. So remember last workshop we've talked about like how we go up a fifth and the sounds can get even brighter with a major scale. So it actually works in the major hexatonic context. So if we go up a fifth from C major, it will be a G major hexatonic. So a G major hexatonic is same, we're skipping the major 7. Yeah. Yeah. So it actually works very good on a C major chord because we are actually avoiding this F sharp. But interestingly, this F sharp is also a C major Lydian sound. Playing only a G major hexatonic have a very assuring sound, like feelings. It doesn't create tension. Yeah, very in tune, in the key. So same as the C major hexatonic scale. So it is used in a variety of contexts. So in gospel music, in a church, like musician might play a hexatonic scale using triads. So in the context of C major, it can have something sounds like this. So at first it is a C major triad, and that is actually 3 notes in our C major hexatonic. The next 3 notes actually made up a Dorian sound, a D minor triad. So that is actually basically the entire scale we're covering using 2 triads. Yeah. And if you are a horn player, don't worry, you can do arpeggio. Yeah. If you're a keyboard player or organ player, this is good stuff. Yeah. So if we go up a fifth again from G major, we can have a D major hexatonic scale. So if we're trying to play a D major hexatonic, we're gonna like leave out the major 7. So that will be the C sharp here. So the entire scale will be together with a C major 7th chord. Yeah, so it actually has the Lydian sound in it, so it keeps getting brighter. Of course, you can even go up to, I don't know, up a fifth again to A, but to A major, but it's not necessary to do that. It can be an option because as you go up a fifth more, you create more tensions. It's a good tool to use to surprise people or add color to a certain section of your improvisations or arrangement. But if you overuse it, it will create a lot of tension that will be either very satisfying to resolve or just be too dissonance. Yeah. So that's a very quick introduction on C major hexatonic. Of course, it can work on a C major scale. It also work a C major chord. It also work on a minor chord. That is because, as we were discussing in the last session, Dorian mode is actually Dorian mode actually has a D7. Dorian mode actually has a minor 7th chord in it. So you can actually play a Dorian scale. So in this case, the C major hexatonic scale actually covers a part of a D Dorian scale. But this is a very complicated way to think about it. So a very easy way to think about it is to find the parent scale or the mother major scale, as how we remember it for every Dorian. So if I want to play something on D minor 7, and I know that D minor 7 is the Dorian mode of a C major scale, then I can play the C major hexatonic. So this is actually one way you can navigate around a minor chord. And also, sadly, this is the only hexatonic scale you can probably use in a minor chord. Otherwise, it will just sound a little bit too, not too bad, but just doesn't sound right. And also, you can do, there's tons of stuff going on minor chord as well, but today we're going to focus on a major hexatonic scale. So for the Dorian, the available Dorian's hexatonic scale would be the C major hexatonic. So, in the context of on Green Dolphin Street, we have the first chord here is E flat major 7. So we can play a E flat major hexatonic scale over it, or up a fifth, a B flat major hexatonic, or even up a fifth. That would be F major hexatonic scale. So it sounds something like this. Yeah, if I'm gonna play a B flat major hexatonic. And then an F major hexatonic. Yeah, you can see it keeps getting brighter and brighter, but very, very in the key. You know, has very assuring sound. Doesn't leave the key much. Doesn't create as much tension as you would play a diminished scale. Yeah, definitely not that kind of sound. Not even like a diminished. Oh no, melodic minor. Yeah, it's a very assuring sound. So it's a very safe way to improvise on major chord. It's not a bad thing to improvise very safely on something, because that actually makes your line very consonant and actually fit the key quite well. It works very good for jazz standards. If you want to play funk music, fusion, you might want to explore more. But for jazz standards, sometimes keep it simple, but make up a very like melodic line using this. Actually sounds awesome. Yeah, like for me, I would try to use this major hexatonic scales when it is available, when I feel like this is the sound I want. Okay, it actually has a lot of other applications. So Robert Glasper used it in his tune "Oh Yeah." So he actually played a solo that is but I'm not gonna play right now. I will save it for the next workshop as we just gradually go into different genres and different historical moments in jazz. Yeah. Okay. So let's continue our major hexatonic thing. On this third bar, we can see there's a E flat minor 7. So if we want to play a major hexatonic scale over an E flat minor 7, that would be like, as we think, if E flat minor 7 is the Dorian mode of D flat major scale, then we can play D flat major hexatonic. Just try to play the notes in the scale in certain, not necessarily in like practicing this kind of order, but actually play around with it. Yeah, That's not actually a major hexatonic scale, but the idea is to navigate in the scale. Yeah, and find your sound in it, and get familiar with the scale, like enough, like if you overplay it, so that you'll never forget it. Yeah, and until you realize you're using it in almost every scenarios you can think of, that will be a very good time to move on. So that's the first 4 bars of on Green Dolphin Street. At the moment, we are not concerning about the melody. Yeah, we're trying to analyze the harmonic progression of this tune first. Then we can add our melody, which will be a very easy thing to do. The improvisation part, actually, it's what it really bothers me, actually, when it comes to this tune, because you have so many options, but you have so little time to do it. Okay, so the first 4 bars actually have a major and then a minor, both in E flat. In the 5th bar, we're entering a new area, which we still have E flat as in the bass. You can see in here as the slash chord, F7 over E flat. E flat, yeah. So if you see slash chord that has a note at the bottom, that means that note is for the bassist. Or if you're a piano player, you can play that note as well. But that's just telling you that E flat is the bass of this chord. But you're actually playing F7 over it. So for today's workshop, we're gonna change this F7 into F major 7. Yeah, a lot of jazz musicians did it. Bill Evans did it. I think Wynton Kelly did it as well, because it actually fit quite well with the melody and with like the half-step resolution thing. Yeah. Yeah. It fits quite well. So today we're gonna change it to F major 7, which will be F, A, C, and E. So what can we play over an F major 7? So the 3 options for today's lesson, it would be first of all C major hexatonic. That's a 5th up F, so we can have an F major hexatonic. That is the most obvious one. Yep. Then we can have a G major hexatonic, because that is a 5th up from C. Yep. So it will be. It actually has a Lydian sound in it, same as every major hexatonic scale you're gonna try to play in all 12 keys. The 3rd option always has a Lydian sound in it. So remember this little trick. Actually create a very bright sound that you can use. So that is pretty much a small introduction on the hexatonic thing. So as we move on from this F major 7 over E flat, we enter E major 7 over E flat. Yeah, you might wonder, like, why can we have an E also with an E flat in the bass? Does that create a lot of tension? Yes, it does. That's actually the purpose. But also, it is kind of a voice leading like arrangement tip, the style. Yeah. So you keep doing like half step down. Also, it is also an example of modal interchange, which we will be discuss about like for a later workshop. If you're interested, we can work on modal interchange more, because that is actually some modern jazz musician starting to create their tunes, or even actually Duke Ellington use modal interchange sometimes, but not that obvious. And an obvious example is probably the style called neo soul. So sometimes it sounds like this. Yeah. We'll get into this kind of modal interchange thing more as we move on from the workshop. But today we're gonna just treat it as an E major 7 over an E flat. So the three options we can have is an E major hexatonic, a B major hexatonic, because that's upper fifth, and then an F sharp major hexatonic that is also upper fifth from B major. So I think by the time right now you already get a little more confident in figuring out this melodic minor thing, major hexatonic thing. So we're just gonna move on from here, because the next chord is a C7. We're definitely not gonna want to change it to a C major at the moment. Okay, so that is one way that you can play around a major chord, yeah, or even a major 2-5-1. For example, if you play a major 2-5-1 in C, which the bass note would be D, G, C. So the line can be like if I'm just trying to play the scale. Yeah, very assuring, very in the key. And even sounds kind of like a pentatonic thing, because they're just one note like different. That is an F natural here. Yeah, if I add this major 7 in it, it creates tension. So for major hexatonic scale, we're just gonna do without a major 7. Yeah, so that's pretty much something about major hexatonic. We're gonna move on to the second option we can have. Actually, it's a very huge topic, but today we're just gonna touch a little bit, which is chromatic scales and chromatic enclosure. It's a great tool that you can add colors or add small voice leading details. So what I mean by voice leading is that you want, as you're trying to solo or play a chord, or you're trying to go from chord to chord, you're trying to draw, like, plan out every single note you're playing for the direction you want to go. For example, if you're a horn player, actually from the last week lick, we can have this. Yeah, last week lick we have this. This is actually, it has like a voice leading thing in it, when you can see. So I'm in D minor, and then I go to B by doing a chromatic enclosure. So today I give an example in E flat major 7. That is actually Arturo Sandoval's solo on There Will Never Be Another You, who is a very, very good trumpeter. Yeah. So it sounds like this. Yeah. Yep, so that's pretty much the first lick of today, and it's a great lick that you can use when you end this tune, and then end the melody of the tune, and then jump into your solo. Yeah, it's a great intro line. Yeah, and the F in the end you can change into any other notes that you want. Depends on which chord progression you're in, and that is your artistic choice or by the choice of the arrangement. Yeah. So this is a good example of the use of chromatic scales. So a chromatic scales is actually a scales consist of notes placed in half step. So on a keyboard, as actually you're trying to play the entire key on the keyboard actually. So it's a very common scale to use in jazz, uh, but technically it's not even. I wouldn't consider it as a scale because you can use it in anywhere. But I would think of it more as a sound, a chromatic sound, because you can put it in many situations, many chord progression, and it doesn't affect the melodic choices and the arrangements like integrity, in some way. So in this lick, he didn't use like the entire melodic scale. He used a little melodic runs between the target notes. So it start on a B flat, that is the fifth of a E flat major. So you can see there's a C, D, C sharp, D. Sorry for the bad singing. So you can see that he's trying to go to a D from B flat. And he repeats his pattern. Actually it's a 4 block like of little chromatic run up or run down. Also, it's an example of enclosure. Like when I say enclosure, it actually means that you're playing notes around the note you want to go to. For example, if you want to go from B flat to C to G, there's actually an enclosure because I'm playing F sharp, that is on the left, or on the left on the keyboard, or you can say it's around the note of G. It's a good way to navigate notes around in your solo. And there will never be another you. It's actually a very awesome tune. We will be covering it maybe if you guys really want to hear it, or we can do it probably sometimes at the jam. If Wing and Georgie would love to add this in the jam like playlist for some week, it'll be lovely and we can work on it more. So for this lick, there's nothing more but just a chromatic thing and then E flat major scale. It's the concept in here is very simple, but the way he phrased around it actually make it sound awesome. There's some other way you can use this kind of idea. All you can do is actually just pretty much play around chromatic scales and add it with the major hexatonic. Because not every tune has like 2 bars of E flat major, like on Green Dolphin Street, or sometimes a tune can have 4 bars of E flat major, and if you only remember a 2-bar lick, it's gonna be a hard time for you. Or you can leave space. Just trying to use the chord tones for your solo, that will be very awesome. Chord tones actually also means you're playing the notes in the chord scale, which in this case will be our major hexatonic scale, and that will make you very safe in your solo and sounds awesome. Okay, so that's a little detail on chromatic things. So I noticed that in a lot of recording, different jazz pianists, different solo player, they have different interpretations of the first 8 bars of on Green Dolphin Street, and sometimes they do it with a bossa beat that is rhythmically different, and we'll be covering that for later workshop as well. Especially what I'm talking about today is the way how they phrase and voice around those 8 bars. So Bill Evans, a very awesome jazz pianist, he sorry about using like a lot of pianist example, but that is how I approached to learn voicings at the first time. And I think it also helped with solo player as well, because you get to see how you can build up your solo by thinking in terms of a chord voicing instead of thinking of lines. That is a very fun way to think about, but a very systematic way to analyze your voicing vocabularies. Okay, so Bill Evans did, for the first 4 bars, he did an intro like this. So notice that in the first 4 bars I have a very different sound, and it has been used in a lot of modern by modern composers, modern styles in jazz. For example, Robert Glasper again, he used this same technique in his tune called "Oh Yeah." So, ooh, that sounds weird. Okay. So we can see this kind of sound is what we called, sometimes we call it chordal voicings. That is, build up the chord using 4th, or build up your line using 4th. That would not necessarily count as a voicing, but it's an option. It has a very modern kind of sound. It is used in a lot of fusion bands. Snucky Puppy uses it a lot. I think my colleague loved them. Chordal voicings also used in modal jazz a lot. And if you heard of the tune called "So What," there's actually a voicing called the "So What" voicings. I think it sounds like this. Yeah. This is what we call a "So What" voicings, because this is exactly what the pianist is playing in the album for that chord, and it got so famous and people started using it in a lot of places. And if we analyze this voicing, it is a chordal voicings based on 4th. So in the context of C major, we're building this chord. We're building lines from 4th, start with the 3rd, like E, and then we go up a 4 from E. That would be A, and then D. Yeah, D, C, and F. So in the key of E flat major, it will be G, C, F, B flat, E flat, and then A flat. Yeah. Yeah, very interesting and airy, open sound. So if you are a solo player, a horn player, a good way to practice around this is that you play arpeggio in 4th. I'm not sure I know about the range of the instrument at the moment, because I'm just doing this explanation in a video, but just try to do this kind of arpeggio like that fits your range. Yeah, obviously. And start very slow. Do it any way you want. This is one example I have here. Yeah. And I write it down as a triplets. You can change it, that whatever fits you, and gradually get faster in using it and figure out your interval faster. Know your 5th, know your 4 is a very powerful tool. Yeah, especially if you are a vocalist and you cannot see intervals as pianists can see on a keyboard. You cannot like hear the intervals from the instrument. I mean, it's very hard for you it will be very good for you if you can sing a 4th interval or 5th interval in tune, especially when 4th interval is actually harder than a 5th. But if you master this kind of technique, you will be killing your solo. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's a very good voice training as well. I'm not gonna sing here because I'm not a very good singer, but I definitely do practice a lot fourth, and I've been benefit from it a lot. Yeah, so one more little tip is that when you find something you like, a line, a lick, a voicings, you very like, try to play it in all keys, and then overplay it. Play it until you feel like, man, I gotta stop playing this. I feel like I'm so tired of this lick again. It's time to move on. Yeah, that means that you already get it, like you get the lick so well in your instinct that you're just like, nah, I'm gonna move on. Yeah. So that's a very small and weird tip. Okay. So that's actually we've only covered the first 4 bars on Green Dolphin Street, but that's actually a lot of content already, as we're trying to explaining some fundamental ideas about jazz music and solo techniques. So here I'm gonna do one more lick for you guys. That is a little bit out of today's context, but it's always good to know more things. This is also in E flat major 7. Sorry about the typo under here. Okay. Yep, you guys can see it. Okay. E flat major. Okay, so it sounds like this. Yeah, it's also a 2-bar E flat major 7 lick. It is also part of E flat major hexatonic. That's why it sounds so in the tune. Yeah, but I add a little chromatic run, and it's actually a triplets run in the end of the first bar. Yeah, it is a very common way to phrase around your notes in jazz. Like it sounds like a jazz language. Yeah, if you play this in a pop tune or a rock song, this is gonna sound so weird because somehow this become a very jazzy sound. Yeah. So just try to experiment around this lick. Yeah, just try to take out the notes in the lick and then try to rearrange it. Yeah, that also works if you put B flat at the top and then replace this by, and then you actually do a little enclosure to D. Yeah. Yeah, so da ba da 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 da. Yeah, that's a little enclosure. And then another enclosure. Ba-da-da. Yeah, this is, I forget how I get this lick. I kept hearing it in my mind. So I'm sure this is definitely coming from some famous or a very overused lick in jazz standards, but it has an awesome sound. So today I provide 2 licks on major. For the next few workshops, I'm gonna introduce more licks in the form of a 2-5-1 progression, because that's like the most common progression in jazz, and you can actually use them in a lot of plays. Playing over a major chord, it usually happens in the at the intro or the first bars or first few bars in standard or vamp, or at the end. Yeah, that's how most standard has this kind of structures. So introducing more like 2-5-1 lick might help you guys more. Also, notice that the 2-5-1 progression actually ends on 1, so you actually can play this lick in a 2-5-1 progression as long as you have enough time for 2 bars, or you can just try to rephrase your own solo over it and condensed it into 1 bar lick. Yeah. So I hope this actually is somehow helpful for you guys. So for the next few workshops, I'm gonna do more things on melodic minor, which will be a new area, than like very different from major stuff, and also exploring more on the 5 chord, like the dominant chord. You can see there's tons of 5 chord in it, like F7, E7, B flat 7, and then in the C sections here you got like tons of 2-5, 2-5, 2-5-1. So it's a very good thing to talk about in the future workshop, and maybe at some point I will do more reharmonization stuff for you guys. That will spice your like solo a lot more than playing major hexatonic scale. This is very useful. Reharmonization is actually a very useful thing for either bassist, pianist, or even horn sections when you're trying to arrange for stuff, or even playing a solo. Yeah. If you're trying to arrange for a small band, reharmonization can give you a very good time. Yeah. A big band might be difficult for you guys at the moment, but this is something I will just definitely introduce to you guys in the later time. But for now, we're gonna talk more like the in-tune stuff, the more in the key stuff at the moment. Then we will gradually go to some crazy thing. So that's pretty much for today's workshop. 2 major licks, a very short intro on major hexatonic, and hexatonic scale actually will be our very important topic as well in the future workshop. That is because all kinds of scale can turn into a major a hexatonic scale. For example, a melodic minor. Yeah, that's a little melodic minor kind of sound. A little melodic minor run, based on major hexatonic, based on melodic minor hexatonic. So this is very different from major things. So I'm gonna cover it in the next workshop. So if you guys have anything more you want to explore, if you want me to work on standard faster than this speed, definitely I will just work on it faster for the next workshop. But if you prefer workshop for a specific instrument, for example, piano workshop, a bass workshop, or a horn section workshop, or even a vocal workshop for vocalists, definitely message us on Facebook, on Instagram. I'll try to accommodate you guys, your needs. And yeah, hope the best and stay safe at this crazy time. Jam with yourself as much as you can in your room, with probably trumpet with your muter on. Yeah, that's pretty much for today's workshop.